Welcome back to the Trader Vision 2020 tutorial series. In today's session, we'll talk about setting up your accounts. In particular, we'll go through setting up account records, what the account details involve, and go through the menus and options that are available. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, I've already got Trader Vision opened. And I also have the ribbon up here showing that we do have a new version available. I wanted to make sure that that was shown to you. So if you click that download link, it automatically starts the download for you. It shouldn't take but a moment or so. And I click open. It gives me a warning because I'm an unknown publisher, and I tell it to run. I should probably get some security warnings from my software, and we get the installation program. I just click next and install and close, and we're done. So again, running Trader Vision 2020, I'm starting out here in the dashboard, but today we're going to talk about Account Manager. Before I do that, something that has been requested is that I change the colors. So let me go into Options and choose the dark style, and hopefully that will be better for you. So let's go to Account Manager. This is the main account records section of Trader Vision, of Account Manager. You can see that it's broken into 4 sections. This top part is your transactions, and this would be a list of transactions very similar to a brokerage account. Would list all your buys, all your sells, any fees that they charge, etc. The next section is your open orders, and if you have placed orders, limit orders to buy at particular price or sell at a particular price, what have you, those open orders would show here. The open positions, if you had some, would show in this 3rd section. And then at the bottom you have transaction details, where you can go ahead excuse me, I'm fighting a cold. But in transaction details, you could, if you were connected to a brokerage, place an order with your broker, just as you could through TradeLog. However, what this is primarily used for is to enter transactions that have not been entered by your brokerage. So for example, a fee or a cash deposit or a cash withdrawal, just to record those things to keep Trader Vision in sync with your brokerage account. So those are the 4 sections of the main account records portion of Trader Vision. I guess I should give a little more detail here. So for a transaction, you pick the transaction type, like I showed you, an entry or an exit or a stop, a brokerage fee, a cash deposit or withdrawal. If it's a trade, then you can have a direction long or short, a ticker, the quantity of shares, the price that's being executed, and the commissions that you would have with that. It would automatically calculate your balance, and then you would select the date and time that was transacted. You could also put some notes on that transaction if you desire. You would just click Save, and it would save that record to the transaction list. If you click New, it will give you a chance to add another one, and so forth. By the same token, you can highlight a transaction up here, and it will show up down here in the transaction details, and you could delete it if you needed to do that to get your accounts in sync. Just like a brokerage account, you can choose what period of transactions that you'll be looking at. Now in this case, we have no accounts set up, so we just have the sample database, and there's nothing really there. But you could specify the year 2018. You could specify a particular month if you want to do some some reconciling with your brokerage statement or something of that nature. The gear icon is where you set your account details, and if you click that, you receive this screen, and this is where you would basically edit or change the settings for the account. So you have an account name. In this case, the only account we have at the moment is the sample account. You specify the long-term period in days. That's the period that should be used by the application to define a long-term trend. The short-term period in days, again, the same thing. The period which will define a short-term trend for you. And then the ETF or index that you want to compare this account against. So, for example, if you trade mostly large caps, you might want to compare yourself to the SPY. If you trade mostly small caps, perhaps you want to compare yourself in this account to the IWM. If you trade, I don't know, all financial stocks, perhaps you want to compare yourself against a financial indice or an individual ticker for that matter. You give it the date that the account was opened and the beginning balance. It will calculate the current balance based on your trades as you go along. You can specify your commissions on a dollars per transaction basis or a dollars per share basis or a combination thereof, and you can also specify a minimum commission to be charged on a per trade basis. Under shorting costs, you would specify the loan rate that you're paying your brokerage, and then also the multiple required for when you short. So for example, if you were shorting a stock at $5, they would require you to hold more than $5 per share in the account, because that stock could run up to $10. And so if you had $5 cash allocated, you're going to come up short if you have to close. Then you set the defaults for this account. In other words, the trade direction, long or short. In this case, because in the options I specified that I want this to be based on the maximum dollar loss for a position. That's the difference between the entry price and the stop price. You specify a dollar value. If that's the selection you've chosen, you can specify percent of account. So you could say, I want, I'm only willing to risk 1% of my account per trade, or you could specify the value set by your goals. So if you've already set your goals, you might have already specified a number that is your average loss that you want to work with. I'm going to stick with the dollar value, and let's just change this to 250 for argument's sake. The planned trade duration is really only used for calculating the estimated cost of a short. So in other words, you have to put into the commissions some value to account for the fact that there will be some cost to shorting a trade. And basically the brokerage all charges you a fixed interest rate that you've applied up here based on a 360-day year. So you have to specify the number of days you're typically going to hold the position short, and that will give us a way to just give a rough estimate of the actual shorting cost. And then in the account transactions, you could be able to adjust that as appropriate. And then if this account is connected to a brokerage, you would click Connected, choose the broker that you're connected to and which account you are connecting this account to. You can also have notes at the account level if you have some notes about this. I know some traders, oddly enough, that have 3 accounts with basically the same name, and I don't know why they do that, but they do. And they use the notes to specify a different brokerage or different usage. So for example, it could be your 401k account for longer term trades, your 401k account for Short-term trades, your 401k account for speculation. Just as an example, because I know a trader that does that. At the same level, you can delete an account. Now, of course, you can't delete an account if it's not closed, and if the transactions are not removed. You can save the changes if you had made some, so let's go ahead and save this. Go back there. Or you could cancel the changes if you prefer. If you click on the Accounts button, that will take you to a list of your accounts. In this case, we only have the sample account, and it is not connected to a broker. It's got a balance of $50,000 and it is not closed. If there were 5 of them here, you could specify up and down to move them up and down in the drop-down lists that you would have in the other widgets. But let's specify a new account here, since that's what we're trying to do today. Let's go ahead and call this one Test Account 1. I guess it would help if I spelled it right. And we're going to use a 34-day period as long-term, specifying a long-term average, and we'll just use 5 days as a week. Let's split the difference. Let's just say 8 days. We'll go ahead and compare this to the IWM. It's being started today, and we'll open this account with a value of $100,000. Our commissions, we've got a good rate on this, so let's just say that we're paying $3.95 a share, or a trade. Loan rate, we'll leave it at 3%, and let's use a 2 multiple. The default direction is going to be long. The maximum dollar loss to our stop, let's specify this as $250 as a dollar value. Plan duration is 10 days, that's fine, and I'm not going to connect this to a brokerage. So we have that now specified, and we can save it. Now if we go into our accounts list, you can see that we've got 2 accounts, and we can move one up or down in the drop-down list that we have throughout the rest of the application. Let's see what else we want to cover here. Let's go back to, you can go back either to the account details or to the transactions from here. Or obviously you could specify a new account. So let's just go back to the transactions. And I think that's going to cover things. I appreciate you coming this evening, and I hope you saw something useful. If you have any questions, feel free. You can always reach me. Let's see if I can get the slide back up. You can always reach me at one of those two email addresses.